did not.
It's kind of impossible unless you there's probably like a program for
No, you just go on your screen and draw.
that. Oh, you can?
Yeah.
Is that part of the assignment?
Look, no. See the word draw in blue?
Oh, that's crazy.
And then the first option, or not the first option, you can draw dots, circles, you can pick pen, and then you can just draw on your screen.
Maybe that might be a bonus question, right? We'll do that.
I think EMIF has in class with you, Garrett. Do y'all have any classes together this year?
No.
Good morning, Fayetteville High School. It is Tuesday, October 15th, 2024. Will you please join me for a minute of silence? Thank you very much. Will you please stand as you are able for the pledge? And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, good morning, guys. So, quick reminder, we had our third test planned for today for a little while. I told you last time I saw you, I chose to switch the test, which was going to be today, with the assignment that I had after the test, which is what you picked up on your way in. So, this circuit doesn't necessarily going to help or hurt you for Thursday's test, but this is all of the calculator skills that you're expected to know. And I've realized in the first, 5 or 6 years I've been teaching calculus that some of you guys don't know how to do some of this stuff in your calculator, and eventually, probably not even on Thursday's test, but eventually you're going to get to some stuff in here that you can't finish just because you don't have the calculator skills behind it. So, our first focus this morning will be this circuit. Again, I think a lot of it should be pretty straightforward and easy. It's got no calculus on it. It's all about making sure you know how to use your calculator. Things like absolute value symbols and inverse trig functions and solving equations and maybe graphing and finding intercepts and maybe graphing and finding zeros and evaluating cube roots. Maybe evaluating a natural log or a secant that you don't have a button for. Just a bunch of random things that, again, it's kind of assumed that you know how to do all of this, but realistically I know you don't know all of it. So with this circuit we should be able to clean that up and make sure we're all on the same page with calculator stuff. So I think yesterday's class didn't really get stuck too much until around question 5 or 6, but go ahead and do the first couple. The first couple should be pretty quick, but if you're not sure how to do something, then let's go ahead and get it figured out. Now, obviously, you can see, especially after you work a couple of these, this doesn't take anywhere near the full class. And with your test next class, I did not pick out something for us to do the second half of the class, so that you would have some extra time to study. So, as you guys finish the circuit, if you still need to study for your test, if you still need to get some extra practice for your test, you want to redo your test review, whatever, you should have some class time to do that. So, now, with our test coming up on Thursday, of course, there is a few recent assignments I have not taken up. You guys can see I don't take up assignments that often right before test. So, make sure you bring your binder with you on Thursday. I will also open those up in Google Classroom today, so as always, you're welcome to turn them in early, so there's no chance you forget your stuff at home. In fact, I'll make myself a note right now. I forgot to do that yesterday. So also with our third test coming up, if there's been any assignment since the second test that you never turned in and you still have a 0 for, or something you turned in and only got half credit for because you didn't complete it, remember that you can complete those. They have to be 100% completed. So if you miss a question and you don't realize you missed a question and you turn it in, that's not worth any points. It's got to be fully completed. But your last chance to get some more points out of that will be before we start the quiz or the test on Thursday. So kind of like your second test, the test review should give you a good indicator of where you stand for the test. But of course the test won't look anything like the test review. Test review is just reminding you one skill is implicit, practice it a few times, maybe practice it some more related to the skill, practice 3 questions. If you need to practice more, there's lots of links there reminding you that derivative of exponential function is really easy, but reminding you it'll be a question or 2 on your test. So that test review should at the very least highlight what things you need to practice more. Okay, so all that being said, so we're going to focus on circuit first. As you finish the circuit, you can use that time to study for your test on Thursday. Now, I don't really want to give you too many hints here because I do want you guys to kind of see discover which things you just don't know how to do correctly in the calculator. But one thing I do want you to notice is all of these answers are rounded to 3 decimal places. So just in case you didn't hear me the first several times I've said this, in our class you should always round to 3 decimal places if you round at all. So multiple choice, you don't have to worry about it, just do whatever it's doing. Free response, always 3 decimals. I emphasize that because your AP exam doesn't really say that in the directions. It says it in the beginning directions before you start any of the tests that you don't listen to. So just make a habit out of rounding to 3 decimal places. Okay, so hopefully you guys did a couple questions while I was talking there, but the first couple going okay. Anybody have found one yet I can help with?
Number 7.
Number 7? Okay, well you're a little bit further than everybody else, so. Number 5? Okay, let's give everybody another minute or 2. So just start a different random question for a minute while you wait. And per usual, as things come up that you didn't know or you had forgotten about, you might want to write yourself a little note at the top of this page so it's easy to look up and recall later in the future. Okay, I'm going to look at question 5 now. Hopefully you guys are to that point. As always though, I will record it as an individual video so you could look it up later, or you can just jump to it right now if you're not sure if you need help with it. Okay, so question 5 gives us a function 4.5 x cubed minus 3.2 x squared minus sine x, and they want us to figure out what f of 1.5 is. So they clearly want us to take 1.5, plug it in for x. So if we go to our calculator, go to our calculator and type this in. So there's two ways you could do this. So I suspect the way most of you guys did this is you did 4.5 times what we're plugging in for x to the third minus 3.2 what you're plugging in x squared minus the sine of x. And that's fine, but I actually like to store in variables, so I'll show that in just a second. However, you do this, there's a good chance this is one of the answers, because this would be a common mistake, but this is not one of the answers. So is this what happened to you?
I plugged the 1.5 in for the sine.
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant to too.
But yes, I got something very similar.
Okay, 7.961, is that what you got? Okay, so lots of you are going to have this issue, and it's okay to have this issue before today, but not after today. Everything we do in this class is supposed to be in radians. So if you're in degree, there's nothing obviously wrong about this number, and the first few questions are just fine, because it really only needs to be in radians as soon as you start talking about trig functions. This is one that has a sine in it, so you have to go to mode and make sure it's in radian mode before you get that answer. And that is one of the choices. So always, 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 this class never does anything in degrees. Now, if someday you take a test for me or you take your AP test and you're accidentally in degree mode, the good news is multiple choice questions should not have distractor answers from being in the wrong mode. But of course you're going to waste your time and you're going to think you're doing everything wrong, and you're not going to know why none of your answers are coming out. So easy to fix. Now, as a quick little I also wanted to talk about very briefly, because I think one of the best things about your calculator is the store button. And I don't know, I feel like I'm the only math teacher around here that pushes that on you guys. So if you've had me as a teacher before, you're obviously aware of the store button. But for everybody else, just to show you an option on question 5, because sometimes plugging in 1.5 is kind of hard, or sometimes you're trying to plug in a fraction and you're plugging fractions into a fraction and it's really hard to type it in correctly. So one thing you can do is you can say 1.5 and then right above the on button there's a store button. If you hit that store button, it'll put an X down, or I'm sorry, an arrow down, and then you can store it in for any one of these letters. So if this was something about time, I might do alpha 4 to store it in for time, or just store it in for X. Now, anytime I say X, my calculator knows I'm talking about 1.5. Why that's convenient is because this last question, it's a lot easier to just put in X each time, like this, than it is to type in 1.5 3 times, and it does the same thing. So
I also just did on the graphing function, the top left button,
top left,
y equals.
okay. What about y equals?
You just put in the function as is, and then you do second trace, so that'd be calc, and then you find the value. You input 1.5, and you get
Okay, that's fine too. If you think that's easier, I think it's probably quicker to just type this in and be done, because you're typing that in, graphing it, and calculating, tracing. You're doing more steps. But if you think that's easier, it's fine. That would always work. So anyway, this is a poor example, but storing things in for x is nice, especially if you mess up the question and you realize, oh wait, it wasn't a sine, it's a cosine. You can just go back and change that, and it still has that stored in for x. So, okay. Again, I know it's pretty early, but any of the first 8 besides question 5, Landon?
7.
Number 7. All right. To me, 7 is where I certainly slowed down quite a bit. I thought 7 was a little bit harder. And this is number 7. Honestly, there's a lot of different ways you guys can go about these. I think most of these questions could probably be worked 2 or 3 ways each. And honestly, as long as you can do it correctly, I guess it doesn't matter too much. But so when I did this one yesterday, you don't have to copy this down, but when I started doing this one yesterday for my answer key, I went ahead and I started doing, I just dove into solving this. I knew I wouldn't want to solve this because of the denominators, so I multiplied everything by an x minus 5, multiplied everything by an x plus 2, because that got rid of the denominators, and then I distributed, FOILed, distributed, combined some like terms, ended up with the quadratic. But at the end of the day, I still went to my calculator to finish solving it. So why not just have your calculator solve it from the beginning? If you're going to use your calculator at all, let your calculator do the majority of the work. So what I'm going to do in question 7 is I'm going to graph this as a line and graph this as a line. And where these will be equal would be their intersect, their intersection. So in my calculator, I've got to be able to type this in. So you either need to put those fractions in carefully with parentheses around your numerator, parentheses around your denominator if you're not sure. Or you can do alpha y equals option 1. And if you do it that way, you can make it, type it in as a fraction. So there's the left side of my equation, here's the right side of my equation. Those two things are equal when they're at the same place and the same time. So you can graph it. Hopefully you see 2 solutions, because the question says there's 2 solutions. So looks like there's one here and one here. Now, one mistake that sometimes students make early in the year is they hit trace, they move the cursor pretty close to this. I don't know. And then they get it as close as they can and they say, well, here's the answer. Sometimes that might be good enough for multiple choice if you can tell which answer is closest to it. But we have to get within 3 decimals of being accurate. We've got to practice that. So one of your menus here is if you hit second trace. When I did this circuit the other day, I used calculate 0, minimum, max, and intersect. I used all of these at some point in the circuit, except for 1 and 6 and 7. But for this question, I want to know where they intersect, so I would pick out option 5. And the calculator is going to do the rest of the work for you, but you have to know how to ask it. So when it says first curve, you need to put the cursor on one of these lines slightly to the left of the intersect before you hit enter. Then it's going to move the cursor to what it thinks is the second curve, but same thing. Just make sure your cursor's a little bit to the left of what you're trying to find. It doesn't have to be super close, but just make sure it's a little bit to the left. Hit enter. Now I hit enter to skip guess. Since I'm putting my cursors right next to the one I wanted to find, it's going to find the one closest. Notice it's got 2. Your calculator's not smart enough to know which one you want, so this is the best we can do. So hit enter to skip guess. And one solution to this is 4.277. 4.277. Oh, it said find the positive solution. So I can really stop there then, because this one is something negative. I can see that x is negative over here. But same idea. If I needed to know this intersect, second trace, calculate intersect. Here's my first line. Move the cursor a touch to the left. Okay, that's a lot to the left, but still close enough. Enter, 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 skip guess, and I guess it was not close enough. Okay, there's to the left, skip guess. Okay, and here was the other answer if you needed it. Negative 1.777, but it said keep the positive solution. So I guess the mistake that I made, the inefficiency that I made, was I basically solved all this by hand and then went to the calculator and realized if I had a calculator anyway, why even bother doing any of it by hand? Just because you can do it by hand doesn't mean you should. If you have a calculator, let the calculator do the majority of the legwork. So. Okay, let's do one more question before I give you some time to work. Number 9 or earlier. Any of the first 9. Okay, let me give you at least 5 to 10 minutes to try some questions.
Do you know why my calculator says T instead of M?
Okay, well there's a couple things going on here. You see how this is highlighted and those are not? You'll want to go up here and turn that off because that'll give you an error message. The other thing is in mode, you switched yours to a thing called parametric. You want it to be in function.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And then it'll be y equals.
So,
Well, if you clear that out now, it should give you x's, not t's.
okay. Thanks.
So, I don't know, you just accidentally changed that or something.
Is it cosine or?
Do you have a question or are you just thinking out loud?
Is the opposite of cosine or sine secant?
The opposite or the reciprocal?
The opposite.
Well,
Or the
opposite of,
reciprocal, the reciprocal.
okay, because opposite would just mean you make it negative or make it positive. Secant is the reciprocal of cosine.
Okay.
So if you need to know a secant value, you have to do 1 over cosine of that value.
Whenever I try to graph it, it just doesn't.
Whoa. You got a lot of stuff going on here. What I would do is, okay, so right here, you see that plot 1 is on,
Mhm.
plot 2 and 3 are off, but go up to plot 1 and hit enter to turn that off. Okay, and then it shouldn't give you an error message. But you just can't see anything. The calculator's gonna die too.
Yeah.
Then if you can't ever see anything, what I usually do is do Zoom 6. Zoom 6 puts it back in standard, the standard negative 10 to 10, negative 10 to 10, and that usually
Thank you.
gets you going at least. Yeah.
How do you do the sine square?
Well, you could just do sine of whatever times sine of whatever. Yeah, it just means sine times sine. Or you can do that and then put the square. That's the best you can do in the calculator. Yep, that'll work. Because they don't let you put it the way we write it, but it means it'll do the same thing. A lot of these calculator skills are really helpful for the ACT too. If any of y'all are still taking the ACT trying to raise your score, the more you know how to do with your calculator and the quicker you are with it, the more time you buy yourself for other questions on the ACT. So.
Positive.
Okay, offer to work another couple questions.
Can you do 10?
Number 10. Is this your 10? Okay.
Oh, wait, never mind, actually.
That's not your number 10? Okay, where is
no,
your...
it is, but I realized what I messed up.
Oh, okay, so you don't need to see it. Anything else y'all have ready to ask? Yeah. Number 10. Okay, so 10 wants us to find h of 0.9 and h of 0.1. So we've got ourselves a piecewise function here, which it felt like we looked at thousands of these the first couple weeks of school and then not so much since. But so for this one, as always, you've got to think about which one of these two it's talking about to know which one of these two to plug it into. So 0.9 is less than 1, so we should plug that into here. So in our calculators, we could do 0.9 times the secant of 0.9. Now, of course, your calculator does not have a secant button, because if you're using secant, cosecant, or cotangent, it's understood that you know that those are just reciprocals anyway. So secant is reciprocal of cosine, so the only way you're going to get the secant of 0.9 is by doing 1 over the cosine of 0.9. So the first answer is 1.448. Okay, and then the second part, 1.1 is slightly bigger than 1, so we should plug it into this guy. So his answer will be 1.1 times the inverse tangent of 1.1. So making sure you know where the inverse tangent button is. You have to hit second tangent to get that. And that one comes out to be 0.916. Okay, and to advance, find the larger of the two. So that was the largest one. Okay, good enough. Okay, anybody else have a question ready? Okay, is this your 12 in the top right?
Yes.
What'd you do? You
One
already
of them's negative. Well, one of them, sorry. I did it right, but I got one of the answers negative, so I got it wrong. But
Well, do you still want me to go over it?
I'm fine, but
Okay, so I'm going to solve this one with graphing again. I'm going to graph this as a line, graph this as a line. Again, it's not the only way to solve an equation. You're welcome to try to do equation solver. It's just equation solver is not great at finding more than one solution. So, I don't know. I think graphing is probably the best overall method, so that's what I'm trying to lean towards. But to graph question 12, you do have to know where the absolute value button is. And I'm pretty sure your calculator has this in at least 3 places. I know it's under alpha window because I do alpha window all the time for derivatives. So should you, and I always see it up at top. So I know absolute value's there. I think it's also hidden in math somewhere. Yeah, math, numbers, absolute value. Or I think we talked about the catalog earlier this year. Second 0. The catalog has everything. Absolute value is pretty nice because alphabetically it's the first one. So doesn't matter how you get to that, but you better know where absolute value is. That is not something I can help you with on a test. So if you did not know that, you need to add that to the top of your page as something to look over. But left side of the equation will be graphed blue, right side of the equation will be graphed red. And to advance in the circuit, find the sum of the 2 solutions. So there should be 2 intersections to have 2 solutions. So here's one. So if you go to second trace, you can have it find you an intersect if you select option 5. But again, then you kind of have to know what it's asking for. You have to be able to navigate this. So I'm going to look for this intersection first. So I'm going to make sure the cursor's to the left of it. When I want to find this intersection, I'll make sure the cursor's to the left of it, because that's the only way the calculator knows which one of these 2 I'm looking for first. So enter, it's going to jump to the other curve, make sure it's a little bit to the left of the intersection you're trying to find again before you hit enter to skip guess, and then it should just bounce back and forth until it finds that location. This one is about 2.426, about 2.426, and then we're supposed to sum that with the other solution. So the other intersection is here, so that's the other solution. So I'll move my cursor up over here. I can see this intersection is at about -3 or so, so if x is at -5, I know it's to the left. Obviously you could zoom out or you could change the window settings if you feel like you need to see more, but should just be able to say second, trace, intersect, I'm left of this curve, enter, I'm left of this curve, enter, skip guess, and then it should put the cursor exactly where it needs to be. Not just you moving the cursor getting kind of close, but it should put it within whatever 6 or 7 decimals of accuracy. So the other answer here was negative 2.747, and when you add those up, you get that as an answer. Did y'all just see the lights flicker, or was that just me? Okay.
I do too.
Okay. Fredo's having a stroke. Again, I'm not even saying that's the easiest way for you guys to solve these, but I do think graphing is one of the more versatile. It's nice to be able to see how many solutions there are, and as long as you practice asking your calculator for those intersections, it's shouldn't be a problem. Okay, obviously I'd still be happy to work out some more on the board, but I feel like with these, sometimes you guys need to ask specific things about your calculator that you might have issues with. Yep. I will make my way around the room, and if you do have something you'd like me to look at and help with, just raise your hand when I'm near you and I'll come by and help. I do have a copy of tomorrow's schedule if you're interested. I just have one hard copy. But after class, when you can have your phone out, if you'd like to take a picture of it, you're welcome to. I'll leave it on this desk. It's probably in your student announcements too, but. Okay, that is also my number 8. Oh, yes, and you need to figure out where it has a nice intersection. I don't know how to use Casio. I mean, so 0 is when y is 0, so it's really just acting for x-intercept. You could also graph that and graph 0 and find an intersection if you'd rather. But I use Casio calculator for 15 minutes of my life, so. I've got some up there if you just want to borrow one. Depending on what you want. Why would you need the line? Are you trying to figure out a number equal? Okay, well, if you graph this, it's graphing certain y values as x changes. When you graph this, it's graphing certain y values when x changes. So when those graphs are at the same place at the same time, when x and y intersect. Second trace, you used this for these before probably. Okay, intersect, option 5. So move your cursor a little bit to the left of the intersection so that the first one you're trying to find, if there's another one, it doesn't have to be like as close as possible, but just a little bit to the left. Okay. Well, here's your x. Your x is weighted here. Now x is weighted here, so now we can okay, so it certainly to the left now. So hit enter. It's going to move it to the other curve. Make sure it's to the left of whatever you're trying to find. X is negative 4, so hit enter. And then hit enter to skip yes. And it should tell you where the intersect is and what the value is. Where and what the value is. But you're just trying to find x there. So. Negative 0.144. What's this one? You can try to, some of these will charge on there. That's the deal on there. You can always try to put it on the charger during class if you want. You might get a little bit of juice.
So number 17. Find the 1K and then Exodus 2.1.
Okay, so I just plugged in 2.1 everywhere there was an X.
Where's the sword again? Where's the sword value again?
Well, you gotta put the number first anyway. And then store is right above the on button. And then you gotta pick a letter to put it into, or variable, okay, enter. Okay, so. There you go. Now, obviously you can't put in K, cause you don't know what K is. Good. Okay, I would just hit enter on that. Okay, so all of this comes up to this, and you know what Y is equal to,
Oh, yeah.
so then you got something that only has K missing, so just undo your add or subtract. Again, as you guys get near the end, or as you finish up, you're welcome to use the rest of the class to study. Unless you just feel like you're ready for your test right now. That's a unique opportunity. Okay, can I offer some more help? just let me know.
We took this in.
You will turn it in, but not today.
Okay, I'm gonna switch the screen back to the agenda, but again, obviously I will be happy to help you with any of these calculator questions. This will be the one and only time all year we can just worry about calculator stuff before you see it within calculus. And I'm switching back to this because I know some of you are finishing up, so still got about almost about 45 minutes, so quite a bit of extra time if you need to study more. I think I got to tell you guys that all of the tests, the second test, have been made up. So just like the first one, if you want to come see it during advisory, you're always welcome to. And if you think you don't need to see it because maybe you made 100 on it, remember there is a little bit of a curve where you could have missed, I think, just one question on that one and still made 100. But again, I have to put this together for my evaluator anyway. But here's how first quiz went. I think I already shared this with you, right? Yes? Okay. And then there's the second quiz. So, first column is raw score before any curve, and second one was after the curve. So, I don't know that that means anything to you, but I guess it gives you some perspective here. But anytime you want to come see your limits quiz or your Unit 2 test, just sign up during advisory any day, and I can let you look over it. We don't let you keep them though.
Okay, you'll still have a touch over 30 minutes, so if you find something I can help with, raise your hand and I will come to you, or you can bring it up here, whatever's easier.
Mr. Townsend,
Yep.
am I allowed to see my testing class, or does it have to be advisory?
Needs to be an advisory.
Maybe.
How do I get, this is wrong. How do I
Okay.
get the maximum?
Well, you could graph it.
That's what I did. And
Okay. Let's see what the graph looks like. Okay, so where do you think the max is?
I'd put right here.
Okay, so that's pretty close, and that might be good enough for multiple choice, but it's not going to be 3 decimals accurate. So go to second trace, and instead of doing intersect, pick maximum. So left bound just means move your cursor to the left of the max, right? Right bound means move the cursor to the right of the max. You're basically just giving it like a little window to look at. And then skip guess.
That's what I did. But I
Okay.
got this, but there's no.
Okay, so you're making the mistake that I also almost made. This is when there's a max. X value is when. This isn't asking when, it's asking what's the max value. So that one's the Y value, not the X value.
Oh.
So X is when, the Y is how much.
Mr. Townsend, I have 2 quick questions.
Yep.
So, for this problem, I'm a little bit confused that we're plugging 4.2 and K into the original equation up here and not
Okay.
the derivative, because I would figure that we
Well-
could find K with the derivative as well, but I don't know.
You might be able to, I don't know. But generally, if you're talking about points, those points come from the function,
Mm-hmm.
so the original equation. When you would plug something into the derivative is if you're interested in to know something about the slope or the rate of change.
Okay. That makes sense. And then,
But also on this one, I think. Okay, so are you asking about part C or part D?
part D.
Okay, okay, that makes sense.
Because I think and so plugging it into the derivative gave us an approximation, I'm assuming, because I got negative 0.4 for that.
Okay,
when
so
I plugged it into the derivative.
that's not the derivative though.
Oh, sorry.
This is whatever you got in part A is the derivative.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're plugging that into that, that gives you slope.
Oh, the tangent line,
Yeah,
not
so
the derivative.
when you did that, that's how that's useful to know the slope.
Mm-hmm.
But what you're really doing here is you're using the tangent line to estimate. So like, I don't know what this line looks like, but it's probably got a lot of
Yeah.
curvature. You did a tangent line earlier in the question when x was 4,
Mm-hmm.
right? You made an equation where this was 4, so let's call this 4. And then since this is the slope at that instant, we can use it to estimate. So over here at 4.2, you see how the point's pretty close to where it's supposed to be? I mean, that's really what you're doing. So you're taking this equation that you got in part B, but you're plugging in this for x and k for y,
Mm-hmm.
and that gives you in this equation you can solve for k.
Okay. That makes
So,
a lot of sense.
We'll
Thank
actually
you.
practice a lot of that later on in the year. There's a whole circuit on those. They're really important. So.
Okay. And then for C in this question,
Mhm.
I'm really confused by the wording at the point P. I don't really know how to
Because
go
it's talking about
that.
part B. What'd you get for in part B and part B?
For part B, I said that y equals 2.
Okay, and the x value? It's 3.
Yes.
Okay, so you've got a 0.32. So they just want you I want you to find the second derivative,
And then plug in 3, 2, 4.
and then plug in 3 everywhere there's an x and 2 everywhere there's a y. And then that do all the arithmetic, and that's what they're looking for.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yep. Also, remember with your test review, I did give you a handout of some optional, 3 optional FRQs. I said that if you did those, some parts of the test FRQ would be more familiar to you. I didn't verbalize, but on the bottom of each of those pages, there is one link to the scoring guide, so you can see how they were actually scored and where the 9 points came from, and see how you did. And then there should be a second link to a video of someone going over it. So, not me, but if you know you need help with a certain part, you could go to that video and watch that part. So, I try to make that as self-directed as possible.
Question.
You're not feeling well?
Yeah, I volunteered at a PBS event. It was like for kids, right? And my dad was like, they're all bioweapons. You have 6 of them. So here I am.
At least it matches your hoodie. Okay,
I
what's your
got
question?
one that matches your shirt. If you want it.
No, I'm not wearing a mask again unless I have to.
That's real. This one, 15.
Okay.
16.
Okay, so did you graph it? Okay, what's your graph look like? I bet I know what your problem is, but... Well, I hope you didn't get the sickness that I'm getting over, because it was not fun.
No, this is just the cold. I think. There's something next.
Okay, that looked fine. Can we see the max in that?
Sorry, I'm changing the window so it doesn't look funky.
If you ever just wanted to look like pretty normal, you can just do zoom 6, and it changes it the standard -10 to 10, -10 to 10. It's quick. Okay, so the max is right in here somewhere, right?
So I'm all the way here to find it.
Okay, you already calculate max. Okay, what's wrong with that?
And then it gave me this number.
No, it didn't.
It didn't.
This is what I thought you did. The x value is when the max occurs. It didn't ask for when, it wants the max value, which would be the y value.
Thank you.
Yeah, easy fix.
Then the minimum will also be the y value? Okay,
If
thank
it's
you.
minimum value, right.
Awesome.
If it said when does the minimum occur, then you would want the x value. You know where to put that back in your folder, please? Huh? Hang on. I thought you were done. I thought you were all studied up. You know where to put it back up there? No? Okay. So I I have a folder for each of you over here, so that when you come in during advisory and you want to see your test, you're not waiting on me to help 5 people get started on that quiz. So one of them says AB. There's just, I think the middle section is second period. Catch your name on it. So just put it in the folder, and it'll be there for you if you want to. Yes. Well, you could just do sign times sign, and that would be sign squared. Or you could do sign x. No, see, you can't split it there. That's how we write it. Yeah, that's on paper, but you just have to do x. Now, if you square it here, it thinks you want to square x. So you have to in parentheses and then square. And that's how you calculate those. Or you can always just do sign times sign. It would give you the same. Just a second. I saw. Did you hand it? Okay, so it's saying when x is 2.1, y is 1.212. So I just put 2.1 in for all those x's. I plugged in that in for y. And then when you do all that, you've got a bunch of numbers, and then only theta is all for. So I don't know. Go to the scoring guide and see if that's the answer they got. It's also good for you to make sure that you're showing the work they're expecting to see. So.
Gotcha.
How was it? How was it? Yeah, I mean, is it 9 points that you did? No way. But, I'm not gonna make the test harder, I guess.
Just for him.
Yeah, you get Form A.
I have a question. Yep. So on here, why did they set the y prime equal to, why they had that as 0, and then in the next step, it's just -2?
This is 0. 16 minus 9 is
Why is the y prime 0?
Oh, y is y prime 0? What part of the question is it? Oh, it's because, yeah, since this is referring to a point from here, and that point is when P is horizontal, and horizontal lines have a slope of 0,
That
and
makes
slope
sense.
means derivative, so.
Cool. That clears it up. That's what we did from already before. So we put that back to us.
Okay, we're down to 10 minutes here, so most importantly, make sure that you come prepared for your test on Thursday. It'll be at the very start of class. If you have any late work, incomplete work that you're going to want more points for, your last chance is to turn it in Thursday morning. So if that applies to you, add it to your homework list. There is 4 different assignments I need to take up, so make sure you bring your binder with you, or check Google Classroom and turn those into Google Classroom early if you would prefer. But you've got about 10 minutes, so if you want to keep working on what you're working on, that is great. If you prefer to look at today's puzzle, that's great too. I believe you saw this one. You saw this one before? Okay, did y'all do this one? Okay. Good luck. Okay, and I posted the answer and explanation on Google Classroom. But I will tell you, I think only one person got this in my other classes, so. Got lots and lots of wrong answers. Any guesses on the puzzle? What do you think?
51.
I can't hear a word you said.
Sorry. Anywhere from 139 to 147.
Too many.
So 51.
It's not 51. It's not 35. 3. Did you say 3? It's more than 3. You can see more than 3 in one picture. Not 51.
52.
Oh. Looks easier than it is. How much?
35.
Nope.
51.
No, it's still not 51.
Wait, is the size the same on both sides?
That's a good question. I don't know. I would assume so. Not 43. You guys are not even close. Well, I won't say that. I guess I won't say that you're not close. You're not close in some ways. Way too much.
I didn't know if that thing hanging out the bottom was like a box, and you're supposed to look at the size of that compared to the boxes, and that the borders actually weren't individual boxes, but just showing us.
No, it's not that tricky. I'll tell y'all before you leave.
Is it a range?
It is a range. That's why your answer's
31 to 50?
there. You go. 31 to 51.
Oh.
Well,
So you don't, it can be like the middle.
Oh.
yeah. I mean, there could be some gaps in there, or there could be a box everywhere that you can't see. So there's a range. 31 to 51. That's why you guys weren't close. The 51 was close, I guess, but. All right, if you still got one of my calculators out, please bring it back. And some about that time. So